So what's going on? It is about time. You all have been asking, and now I am ready. I'm going to get into the floor flexing situation, but I want people to understand something. Like, I really do love and appreciate that you all hold my feet to the fire. All right. There is never a moment where somebody corrects me or criticizes me that I take it personal. And I don't take it personal because I always feel like I can rise to the occasion. Like, even if right now you might have pointed out something, okay, cool, that's all right. But I'm always going to continue with this growth. So with topics like this, I always like to try to take a different approach. All right. Like the Porsche video I did is kind of similar to that. Why? Because it involves cars. It involves technical data, dimensions, checks, all types of stuff like that. So I like to try to take a different approach. You already know our family counterpart, which is the technical wizard, is Bryson. But when it comes to me moving, I move how I want to move and when I'm ready to move, and basically put my information out to you all, and hopefully you accept it, but not everybody will. Now, I've seen several other channels talk about this same topic between Red Bull and Ferrari and the floor flexing situation. And I've literally watched one video where verbatim, they just read, I mean, they were doing pictures and videos on top of it, but they literally were just reading the report that came out. That's cool because it's still reporting to a degree, but I want to take a different route. All right. So this is what we're going to do. I think it's very important for us to learn some of these acronyms, the technical aspect, the words, the parts that they're talking about, so we can better understand as a community when we hear this lingo, when we hear these conversations, we get a better picture of exactly what is going on and what is being talked about. I'm not saying that everything I may say is exactly correct, but I am saying that we're going to take this route because here on this channel, we're about growth. All right. Oh, and don't forget the Lamborghini bottle. Boo! It did make it in. It did make it in. So that's nice. You know, the color of the box it kind of is fitting for the races coming up. But, you know, Lamborghini, that's the bottle we'll have on deck for this weekend. So let's get into this first. So the first thing we're going to go to is Article 2. And Article 2 is very important. So let's go ahead and go up here to this board. Article 2 is very important, and Article 2 is important for this reason. Article 2 is where you will find a lot of your definitions and your understanding of what certain acronyms or abbreviations will mean. So the first thing we need to be aware of is axes, all right? So the axes that you see, you know, you're going to have the X, the Y, and the Z. All right. So now there are times where you will see in certain reports where you will see like XR, XF, XC. And what that X is standing for is the axis of the vehicle. All right. Now the axis of the vehicle is going to run from here to here. And I will show you an image of that. This is your axis points. All right. So you will have your X axis, which is going to run basically from the rear to the front. And that is going to be your longitudinal. Also, keep in mind that there are other terms that are based on these same points, but have to do with motion, and we will also cover that. So then your Y-axis is what you see right there. It'll be your lateral motion, not motion, but that's your lateral line. We'll get into the motion after this. And then you have your Z-axis, which is basically your vertical, your top and your bottom. That also has a different terminology when it does come to motion. But the main thing we want to get into is what you may be also seeing is you are seeing what is called an RV plank. And a lot of these reports are being referred to. RV is not a manufacturer. All right. It's not a type of material or something. It stands for something. And as you see right here, you see the RV plank down there. It stands for plank reference volume. Or you might see the RS, which also will stand for reference surface. OK, so this is what that abbreviation is meaning, or that acronym is meaning when you see it. It stands in which this is abbreviation, which stands for reference volume. OK, so when you see the RV plank, that is what it means. All right. So when we go from that, let's go into the motion of those same axes that we were talking about as far as the points, and look at them when it's referred to as far as in motion. So you'll see right there that your same X axis, which is in black, is your roll. All right. That's basically when you're going into a corner, it's going to roll left, roll right. These are the terminologies that you will also hear being used during certain races. And I'm going into this because when we go into what we're talking about, which trust me, I'm still going to get to my personal personal opinion about all the shit that's happening. But I think it's important that we try to understand some of these technical terms and the aspects of what we are actually talking about. So then the next thing is you'll see your y-axis, and that is going to be your pitch. So basically you hit the brake, the nose will dip down, it will pitch down, pitch up, okay? And then you have your z-axis, which is going to be your yaw, all right? That's basically when you turn, yaw, it's coming this way. Same thing kind of with a helicopter, but we're talking about a ground vehicle. So these are the things, these are the simple things that you should know, because when we start looking into some of the regs, the articles, you're going to see things like XR, XC, XF. Now you know that they're talking about the X-axis and they're talking about the front, center, or rear of the vehicle. Okay, now there are other ones as well, and you can see that when it explains in Article 2. Now this is something that's going to take you some time to go through, especially if you haven't been, I haven't been developing cars in Formula One. I haven't been an engineer in Formula One. So all things you may not clearly understand, but there are resources for you to be able to dive into to get an understanding of what is going on. All right, so just like you see right here, X is the rearward longitudinal direction, okay? That gives you that. Then it tells you what A, tac A means, B, tac B, Charlie, tac Charlie means. These are all things that might be combined to give you an understanding of what area they're talking about on the car just by simply telling you what's on the X-axis, C, which is toward the center of the vehicle, or R towards the rear, or F towards the front, is my understanding on that. So then let's get into actually looking at this floor, okay? We want to look at this floor. We're going to bring up the floor of the Ferrari, okay? Now this is the part that they're talking about as far as this plank board and how it's being fixed and are allowed to flex. Okay, so when it comes to this, you'll see them oftentimes in this article right here, which is going to be Article 3.158, okay? 3.15.8. And you'll see that it says, now this is the article. Now we're going to go over some of these articles and then go into why I believe that the two teams, our teams that are utilizing or are getting over on this limit, are actually cheating, and they should be reprimanded to some degree. It says in alpha, bodywork within RV plank. So now we know that's reference volume plank may deflect no more than 2 millimeters at the holes in the plank at XR equal 1080. So 1080 is probably a measurement in millimeters, okay? And no more than 2 millimeters at the rearmost hole. Do you understand that? 2 millimeters of that is as much. Now notice it says no more. So you can have less than, but you cannot have more than 2 millimeters of flexion. Okay, so that is right there a standard period. Now what I do want to point out to you is how you see that it says at XR, all right, at XR 1080 and no more than 2 millimeter at the rearmost hole. Now you do have to keep in mind that this does not mean it's at the very front of the vehicle. All right, it does not mean it's at the very front of the vehicle. And at the rearmost holes is beyond the XR location is how I'm seeing that. So if you do that, then technically what you would be doing is you would find your XR, you'd find your XR location on this plank, and then you would go beyond that, which would be the rearmost holes. But what I would like to point out is you see no dimension for the rearmost holes. All right, you don't see a dimension for that. What you do see, however, if we go back to 3.15.8, is that it does say further down, says that the rear's hole, the displacement will be measured at the support. All right, so the displacement is measured at the support, but it still does not tell you where, as far as location and measurement, where the rear's most holes are, which is where I think the teams are finding their invite to cheat or to design to give them the edge, which I don't care how you designed or placed these holes or fixed this board to the body. The limit is 2 millimeters of flexion. That's the limit. That is 2 millimeters of deflection. That is all you can have. So where's this 6 millimeters coming in? That is where the problem is starting to be. So let's track this down. As you see right there, later on down, they reference Article 5.48. So what is 5.48? 5.48 is going into basically where the power unit would be affixed and how to affix it. So if we go into 548, 548 gives you this. It says power unit monitoring may only comprise 6 M12 studs. Okay, so that has nothing to do with the rearmost points in regards to the plank. Six mounting faces of studs, connection, that still has nothing to do with it. 4 mounting faces of the studs for connection, that's still to the transmission, that still has nothing to do with it. So although it's telling you about this area and how the power unit, the transmission, everything is being affixed, you still don't have a direct reference to the rearmost holes in regards to XR equaling 1080 to then tell you where these holes are supposed to be. Now, I'm not saying that all teams don't have them located in the same place, because this piece of plank might be something that's standardly get issued out, but I don't think so, because I don't think, which is something else we're going to get into, that all of them all cars are not designed the same, right? So not all survival cells or the monocoque should be affixed the same to every car. So now we'll get into that. Now that is a different situation, and this is going to take us to Article 3.2.6. All right. Now we're still looking for this measurement of the rearmost holes in regards to XR equaling 1080. So right here is the datum points. Now datum, I'm going to tell you right now what datum means, because that is a word you need to know so you can understand what this is. Datum means piece of info or fixed starting point, telling you basically where these are going to be located. These are where these points should be measured by and or. If you look here, you still don't see anything referencing the rearmost holes in regards to XR equaling 1080 for the plank. This are giving you your datum points, and I can show you image that kind of outlines this. It's not like it completely outlines it, but it kind of gives you an idea of what we're talking about. Now, if you look in this plank board right here, this on the side of this illustration, you see these big holes. These big holes, I believe, are what they're talking about as far as the datum points. These datum points are essentially access holes to be used to access the survival cell, or AKA the monocoque. All right. This is where the driver mainly sits, is in, and you really don't get a full glimpse of that because the engine cover, everything's on top of that. But basically that is what it is. So you are allowed to have these access points in this plank in order to access those bolts or fasteners to the monocoque or the survival cell. But even then, they still do have measurements on those, and I believe they have flexion tests as well on those. Okay, so we're not finding anything, and this is where I think the problem is coming in with the rearmost holes. Now, what is so big? What's such a big deal about this? Well, this is the big deal. Teams are exposing this. I'm not going to even say it's a loophole. It's a gray area, because I don't think it's gray. Although they might not illicitly place in there where these rearmost holes have to be, they tell you what XR 1080 is in reference to the front, to those holes. And then they give you period. What do they give us? In 3.15.8, they tell us that 2 millimeters at the two holes in the plank at XR equaling 1080, and no more than 2 millimeters at the rearmost holes, period. There is no more than that. We have had teams evidently have more than 6 millimeters of flexion in these areas. That's 4 millimeters over the most allowed. So I do not understand. If you have a range, they said 6 millimeters. That means somebody had to measure this shit, right? Somebody now had to realize that there is at least 6 millimeters of flexion going on in that car and this car. So where is the punishment? Why is nobody getting reprimanded? Why is nobody getting, I'm not going to go as far as to say Christian Horner suspended, but why is nobody getting penalized? That is what I would like to know. And I believe both of these teams are Red Bull and Ferrari. Why? Because I've said, and I've given credit to these two teams, right? I've given credit to these two teams to be the two design cars that just so happen to land in a sweet spot with the new regs and the new car. But this shit may not be the case now, is it? Because if we are finding out that there are teams They have went over the allowed limit, which is in the regulations, which we see. They've broken the rules, and therefore they've been breaking these rules up until now in the season. So should not something happen as far as these races or these places being withdrawn or something? And how do you do that? How would they go about that? I'm not sure. I haven't thought into that matter. But it definitely needs to be something needs to happen. Something needs to happen. They knew that the limits were 2 millimeter. Okay. Now, I said this shit myself. Now, I also want to point out, right? This is not the first time that we've had issues or situations with flexing. We've had this same situation with the flex wings. All right. We've had this same situation with a similar situation when people thought Mercedes were manipulating their suspension somehow to dump the rear when they weren't. They were using load, and with the load, the rear of the car would dump down, trying to let them get out of as much drag and slipstream. But with the flex wing, with the Red Bull situation, basically what they were doing is there are checks on this. Okay, so there are checks. They're going to put a certain amount of force to make sure that this wing does not flex, but to a certain level. And it's an allowable level. What Red Bull and probably other teams were doing, but specifically Red Bull, is they probably found out on track what are these maximum loads that are happening on track in comparison to the loads that they are testing under. Do they exceed those loads? If so, then Red Bull would be able to find and construct a wing that would be load tested and pass, but once it was out on track under those racing loads would flex more to dump the drag. That is what's happening. So this is not the first time we run into wait a damn minute. That's still Red Bull. And we're still questioning Red Bull. And matter of fact, Ferrari is not clean itself. Do we not remember that Ferrari was under investigation? And while we did not get full information about what Ferrari had done, they fined Ferrari. Why would they fine Ferrari if they did not find that Ferrari had done anything wrong? They found it. They didn't put it out. It seems that these two teams get away with bloody murder. You all are all a lot. I'm not going to say you all because some people are okay with it. Some of us are not okay with the fact that Perez and Max ran Mick and Charles off track and Lewis off track without no peep about it. Nobody said anything about it. But that's getting into something focused on. Let's stay on this. All right. So as I was saying, when we get into Article 3.15.8, there is no allowable limit like you will find in Article 3.5.9, okay? And I'm going to give you this example by bringing 3.5.9 up. Now, 3.5.9 is about the thickness in the allowed wearable area of the plank, okay? How much wear can you have on this plank before it's unacceptable? It's not allowed. So you'll see here the thickness of the plank assembly measured normal to lower. Surface must be 10 millimeters plus or minus 0.2. That's a variance. You don't see that variance in 3.15.8. You see 2 millimeters is the most, all right, is the most. You can't have 0.5 to the left, 0.5 to the right of 2 millimeters. No, 2 millimeters is the ceiling. You cannot hit that ceiling, or else if you go through that ceiling, you are considered what should be illegal. Well, here they give you some plus and minus. So you can have 10.2, or you can end up having what, 9.8. That's what you can have. Either or in that range, you're good. Now it says a minimum thickness of 9 millimeters will be accepted due to wear. That's also giving you some variance in there. Okay. So they're telling you under certain special circumstances, we will allow you to have 9 millimeters of wear given certain situations. Okay, so really, even though they gave a 10 millimeters 0.2 plus or minus 0.2, which would be 9.8, they're telling you your floor is 9 millimeters with special provisions or situations. All right, that's it. Now, once again, you see that down there saying given by RV Plank. Now you know that is reference volume. Okay, now you know what that means and what that is. It's not a manufacturer. So let's get into what Christian said, because what Christian said is telling to me. All right. Christian says a dangerous avenue to go down, basically, It's certainly not a precedence that we want to go down. Otherwise, setups will be being dictated by the FIA directives. Well, Christian, shit, they're already dictated by directives and regulations. What are you saying? What Christian to me is saying by saying that is he is one of the teams that has done or broke these rules. The Red Bull car has. I'm not saying that it's factual. I'm just saying from what Christian, because I've even heard, and I couldn't find it. But I heard or read that I believe Christian, don't hold me to it. If somebody can find it, you let me know. Christian or somebody said along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing, that why issue these penalties? Maybe it should just be grid or placement penalties, time penalties, grid or time penalties. Why would Christian be open to that? Or why would anybody who said that be open to that? You would be open to being able to keep the regulations as they are and allow that flexibility and willing to take a grid drop or a time assessment because you would feel that with the regs as they are and that variance allowed of 6 millimeters, that you could, as a team, could make up that distance or that time because your car has that much better pace, although it is out of regulations. That is also a telling sign of which teams are actually doing this. And I'm going to say this. If come France, right, because I believe something like they had like 3 races, which I don't know, they gave them 3 races to get it under control. But if you're already outside the parameters of the regs, which is 2 millimeters, there's nothing to get under control. You just broke the rules and you need to be penalized. If France comes and we start seeing cars that have not been porpoising to certain levels, and now they bouncing up and down like a damn basketball on the track, that's going to be an indicting sign of who actually was breaking the rules. That's going to be an indicting sign of who was breaking these rules. So I'm going to say this. If we see Ferrari and Red Bull suffering from excessive porpoising because they have not had to really deal with it because they've been skirting and breaking the rules, and now that they are correct and the car is correct, now they're dealing with a different car in a sense, and we see this, that will tell you who was guilty and who was not. Now, let's say we're going to France and they say everybody checks out good and everything is good, and these teams don't even blink an eye. They still are exactly where they were with the same type of pace, same type of performance, same type of speed, without as much porpoising as you can have in this era, this first year up, because more teams will have less going next year with wind tunnel time and testing and building and constructing and engineering. Then, hey, it is what it is. But that is my take on that. I think they know. And of course, it is said that Mercedes launched this appeal or the complaint, which they should. I mean, Red Bull will do the same damn thing. Ferrari going to do the same thing, right? We know these 3 teams are very well suited to launch appeals or complaints on their team's behalf. Red Bull more than any damn body whine and complain about shit. And this is just real. And they get away with a lot of stuff. All right. That's not even a debate. That is like a fact. That is a fact that a lot more things have yielded in Red Bull's favor than not. And I would go to say with Ferrari, I mean, hell, how do you think they were going to kick the Formula One child out? Ferrari is that. So they fined them but didn't divulge what they did. I mean, if that ain't showing favoritism, I don't know what the hell you would call that. Like, how do you get fined that much money but not tell us what the hell you're fining them for? That's crazy to me, all right? I mean, I can understand you want to get into proprietary information and all that. Okay, whatever. You can still write a report up without putting said part numbers and maybe even their legal trademark name for whatever they're using. Come on, stop the bullshit. I'm not buying that, not even for $1. So this is what we got going on, the flexing floor situation. We're going to see how this actually turns out coming into France and on. We will have a race this week in Austria. So be here live for the finale lap. We're going to have the quali watch. I might even go live post the sprint race. And we will also be live post the actual race on Sunday, so you don't want to miss that. Several people have earned their points for VIP boxes, right? And you can still be one of those people. This is not something that stopped. This is something that is ongoing. And right now we have more than a few people that are almost in sight. We have a few people that are near the tier 2 level, which I haven't even fully announced yet. And we got one person who is ready to receive their tier 2 level. Several of you are in the slipstream of working your way to your VIP box. It's my way of showing you appreciation for supporting the channel, for sharing the videos, for the super chats, for the super thanks on the videos, even when you're not on live. A lot of you hit the super thank button on the videos and you contribute to the channel that way. And it's my way of giving back. And Members get to choose the bottles that I order and drink on the show to celebrate a Mercedes podium. All right. They get to choose these bottles. They chose this Lamborghini bottle. It does look good. Hopefully it doesn't taste bad. Hopefully it also tastes like it look, and hopefully, you know, it's gold standard. So with that being said, just build it. Peace. Thanks for tuning in and watching another video here at Wolfpack Performance. Check out some of my other content on Formula One issues, our topics, and our DIY products on how to customize your vehicle. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. See you soon.